This week on Let's Talk Schools, meet the compassionate student behind the nonprofit Zen Gen, which he started to provide mental health support services and resources to teens. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Schools. I'm Mike Looney, the superintendent in Fulton County. I'm also the host of this show. Today, we're going to be talking to a student and one of our professionals about the needs of our students and how we work to satisfy those needs. So I'm going to start by asking both of you to introduce yourselves. Young man, you're a senior at Alpharetta High School, so introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll turn it over to our esteemed professional here, and we'll get involved in this conversation.
Absolutely. My name is Dallas Brooms. I am 16 years old. I am a senior at Alpharetta High School, and I care a lot about mental health. That has been a very core and personal issue to me and to my community, and I feel like I have a responsibility to do something about it and try to help people as best as I can, whether that's through understanding stories, getting the proper information that they need, or connecting them with somebody who can help them more effectively.
Look forward to learning more about that. You're a senior and you're 16. Are you about to turn 17?
No, I just turned 16.
So you're a young senior. You're
Yeah.
going to be graduating as one of our younger students. Congratulations on your upcoming graduation.
Thank
And so tell us about you and what you do, what your title is.
Absolutely. I'm Stacia Cooper. I'm our coordinator for psychological services here in Fulton County Schools. I have the opportunity and the privilege of supporting all of our school psychologists in the district who are a dynamic group of individuals who are skilled in bringing their knowledge and their understanding of how mental health, behavior, and learning intersect. They bring their skills in terms of consultation, assessment, intervention, and data analysis to really help identify the conditions in which our students can thrive while reducing barriers to learning.
You know, many of our viewers might be surprised to know that Fulton County Schools, we have our own psychologists employed by the district, and they do a multitude of things, everything from testing students for learning disabilities and giftedness and all sorts of things. Can you talk a little bit about the scope of the work of a psychologist here in Fulton?
Absolutely. So our school psychologists provide a very comprehensive set of services, with consultation taking up a great deal of that. They are critical and integral team members of our student support teams, our MTSS teams, our Section 504 teams, even special education teams. So really bringing the teams together to hear from a holistic view what's happening with students and how that may be impacting their learning, and really identifying strengths, weaknesses, how we can connect that to interventions so that they can be successful academically. They also support our students by providing direct service through counseling. We have some of our school psychologists who serve as check and connect mentors. They do check-ins with students. So very broad range of skills depending on their caseloads and their school assignment.
You know, that brings me to this point. Our students come to school with a host of different kinds of needs and challenges, stories, individual stories, personal stories of success and challenges. And so it's just reassuring to me as the superintendent to know that we have a support network of professionals to help our students along the way. And my assumption today is that you have benefited in some way from these supports. But before we get into that, you've started an organization. Tell us about your organization and why that's meaningful and impactful to you.
I started an organization over the summer called Zen Gen, play on words there, Zen Generation and Z for Gen Z. It's basically dedicated to trying to provide resources however we can regarding mental health, whether that's webinars that we're hoping to host where we can talk about a variety of subjects that affect a lot of teenagers and things that are important like substance abuse and family trauma and things from the past that might still hurt them. We also hope to provide subsidies for people that need it to get therapy. And we just hope to make this a better place for everybody, for students, for staff, for everybody, anybody that needs it, but specifically our students.
Very admirable and lofty goals. I remember being a teenager myself, and I remember thinking, adults they have a lot of knowledge, but they don't speak my language, or they didn't speak my language at the time. So the fact that you've embraced this notion of students helping students, or teenagers helping teenagers sort through and navigate some of these issues and challenges in life is just so admirable. I'm really proud of you. And as a 16-year-old senior, that speaks volumes. Tell me about your why. So why did you want to do this?
So it kind of stems from my own personal background with mental health struggles. I was born here, raised here until 2021, where my parents decided to make the move to the United States Virgin Islands. It just wasn't an environment where I was comfortable or able to make many friends and be social and just kind of thrive. And it was at that point where I started developing some traits of depression and anxiety, which eventually were exacerbated when I moved back to Georgia. I hadn't started school yet, but I was in a very, very dark place, and I didn't really know where the resources were to get out of that place. And me and my mom looked and looked for any way we could try to resolve this issue and get me started on the path to wellness. And it took a extremely long amount of time. We eventually got to a place where I'm starting to come out the other side a better person. But I realize, I have classmates that come to me with their issues and try to say things, oh, this is happening in my life, or this is happening with my family, or things like that. And I care about these people. I'm passionate about people, and I want to help them however I can, especially people that are in my community. So I saw both my past experiences and what I have now, the opportunity that I have now, as an opportunity to go forward and try to improve this community one mind at a time.
Well, thank you first and foremost for sharing your personal testimony and your personal journey. I'm glad to hear that you're doing well, and that there's hope at the end of this journey for you. The reality of it, though, is we do have resources, and we have the 90,000 students that we serve. They come to school with, as I said, challenges and successes. What kinds of resources do we have in the form of mental health, social, emotional supports that can help students that are struggling to deal with some of the challenges that they're facing?
Absolutely. And so when we talk about the different supports that are available in our schools, we think about it from a tiered approach. Every student has access to school-based mental health professionals, whether it's a school psychologist, a school counselor, a school social worker. And so these individuals are here in our buildings that have a very unique skill set to support the social emotional development of all of our students. In addition to that, we have a variety of different awareness campaigns that are put forth throughout the district, whether it's suicide prevention awareness campaigns, whether it's mental health awareness campaigns, and so forth. We also have our student success skills curriculum that is intended to really ensure that we're empowering students with skills and knowledge around how to be more self-aware, how to tap into how they're feeling, and how to convey that in their interactions with their peers, with their adults. We're looking to build them up in their problem-solving skills, to ensure that they know how to collaborate with one another and engage with one another. And so that is pervasive in all of our schools. They have access to that curriculum that's taught at least 2 times a week in our schools. And so in addition to that, all of our students at our middle school, high school have access to our Text for Help line, where they can text a number, and then they have anonymous access to a licensed mental health professional to just talk to things, even if they're not in crisis. That individual on that other side of that text message can connect them to resources. And we also have our tip line, right? So if things are happening, but people want to report, they can also share that as well. And moving up the tiers, we have, because there's greater needs, students have greater needs beyond what those universal supports can provide. Those same mental health professionals I shared, school psychologists, school social workers, school counselor, they do offer more individualized supports, whether it's through group counseling. We also have our on-site mental health providers. We have partnerships with 4 agencies, Summit Counseling Center, Chris 180, Odyssey, and Family Ties, who are available through referral to provide therapeutic services to our students at school.
So I'm going to ask both of you the same question. I'm going to start with you, young man. what advice would you give to a student that really doesn't know what the next step is for him or her? Whether they're depressed or they're feeling anxious. You started an organization, the school has resources available. Talk to us about the best advice you have for a student that might be watching, or for a parent that might be watching this episode of Let's Talk Schools. How do they move forward, and how can they trust that what they say is in confidence, and that nobody's in trouble? Talk to us about your experience and what advice you might give to parents and students that are watching this show.
Sure. I think first and foremost, it's important that the student and the parent are at an understanding with each other, because if there is a miscommunication somewhere, it can dampen how things need to be handled. But one person might think it's less serious than it is, and it might be incredibly dangerous to not just themselves but to the people around them. And I would say the most effective thing that I was able to do was to drop the things that were causing me stress. And it didn't always benefit my school, but just for a brief moment, just to take a step back and realize that I had people that cared about me. I had people that wanted to help me, whether it be the social worker at the school, Ms. Jax, my IB coordinator, Mr. Frank Fortunato, who does a fantastic job of keeping me on track, but also, being able to almost be like an ambassador to the teachers in the program. So it's things like that I would recommend are completely important to know. It's just things like that you can't really ignore at this point.
Fair enough. And can you give us some advice? If you're a parent watching or a student listening or watching, what advice might you give them? I have a child, or I feel this certain way. How do I go about getting the help that I need?
Absolutely. I think as adults in children's lives, we get to be the champions for them, and especially recognizing that we were in their shoes at one point in time, and kind of taking a step back, thinking about what it was like for them, giving them that space where they feel validated in their experience to say, this is really hard for you right now, and not necessarily diminishing the experience. But then once they're in a space where they're a little more calm, a little more regulated, to be able to, Dallas mentioned it, take a step back. We refer to that as distancing, to really be able to look at the fact of a situation, and encourage them that, hey, when you look at this in 10 years, you're going to be like, I made it through that. And in terms of reaching out for support, definitely connect with the schools. We have the resources available. Our school psychologists, our school social workers, our school counselors are available, and we know how to connect families and students to resources. We also have partnerships with a variety of different community organizations, and Connect Fulton is a really amazing application that we can connect them to really figure out what are the resources in their community, whether it's in relation to meeting their basic needs, meeting their wellness needs, transportation needs, and so forth.
Dallas, it takes a lot of courage to step forward and say, you know what, I don't have everything under control in my life. I feel anxious, or I'm feeling depressed. How would you advise your peers to say, you know what, I can't do this all by myself. I need some support from somebody, without feeling embarrassed or without feeling judged? What advice would you have for them?
Absolutely. I think it's important for them to understand that you have gotten this far. You have gotten through lots of adversity in your life, whoever you may be. But ultimately, there comes a time when you need to have an external opinion, whether it's serious or not. You need to talk to somebody about the way that you feel and the ways that you can deal with that. Because number one, nobody is going to judge you or blame you for seeking help in that regard, because that's something everybody goes through. At some point in their life, they're going to deal with something like that, and they will all understand. And the second thing is that they want to help you, whether it's a friend or a therapist or the school social worker or the principal sometimes. They want to help you. They want to make you feel welcomed in their community, whoever it is. And I recommend that you realize that there's not really a whole lot stopping you, and there's not really a whole lot of people that will care about, or in a bad way. I mean, like, they will be understanding, and they will be accepting and welcoming of you.
I often talk about the fact that in Fulton County Schools, we focus on relationship. And relationship is about open communication, having trust that you don't have to do things alone, whether it's academically, emotionally, socially, it doesn't really matter. We all have challenges in life, and I have come to realize, both as a leader and as a human being, that I can't do life alone. It takes other people in my life to support me when I'm down and celebrate me when I'm up. And so I really appreciate both of you coming today and just hitting the tip of the iceberg of this really important topic. Mental health, social, emotional health is very important. We can't get to the students' minds and achieve the academic outcomes that we need to, unless we know that a student is both physically, emotionally, and socially healthy. So thank you so much for your transparency and your leadership and bringing this issue to the surface. Thank you for your tireless work to make sure all of our schools have the resources necessary to support our students. And folks, thank you so much for watching another edition of Let's Talk Schools. If you need support, if you have additional questions, please go to the district website, look at all the resources that we have available. And if that's not good enough for you, please contact your child's school. Students, contact your school counselor, your school administrator, a caring, helpful adult that you trust, because you're not in this alone. We're in this all together. I look forward to seeing you again soon. And now, let's go around the district in 90 seconds. That's it for our show this week. Let's keep this conversation going. We'd love to hear from you on our social media platforms. Join us next time on Let's Talk Schools, and thank you for watching.